Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Absolutely Podcast, the podcast specifically designed to help women defeat diet culture and live your dream healthy lifestyle. Today's podcast episode is a very exciting one because I'm going to be sharing with you all of the things that macro tracking has helped me do and unlocked really in my life. And I really do credit tracking macros to completely restoring my relationship with food as well as completely transforming my physique. And so macros, I know, are a very controversial subject. I know a lot of people view them as obsessive or as restrictive, or they feel like they've done it in the past and they really haven't seen success or results from it. But I'm going to be kind of shedding light on a different way to approach and view macros and all the ways that it has personally helped me, and also spreading in a couple of little client stories in there as well. But macro tracking literally saved my life, and I will stand by that. But I am very excited to be sharing that with you all today. And it is really such a helpful tool if you use it in the right way. So I'm going to be kind of spreading that knowledge there. But before we get into that, I'm going to go over my weekly recap, which is a fun one today because it was my birthday week and my favorite of the week as well, which kind of goes along into my weekly recap. And I also wanted to chat about my current fitness journey. I know I have kind of been sprinkling that in as well in these episodes, which I hope you have been enjoying. Also, too, if you hear things in the background, you shouldn't, because this microphone's nice and expensive. But my dog is on my lap, and then I have my parents' two dogs sitting right next to me. So it's just a whole little cuddle puddle over here today in the podcast studio. But my birthday was this last week. It was Wednesday, and it was honestly, I think, my best birthday ever. I know that that sounds crazy, and I'm not really like a huge birthday person either. Like, yes, I love like going out for a nice dinner on my birthday. I love celebrating your birthday. I think that it's important to celebrate another beautiful year of life, but I'm not someone that like lives for their birthday. But this year was especially fun because my mom invited me to play in her member guest golf tournament with her, which I have played in one other tournament, but this one was just like totally different vibe, and it was literally the best week ever. Wednesday I woke up, it was my birthday, and it was like the first round, which was just a practice round, which was nice, so it could be a little bit more chill. And then there was a little like competition element. I'll spare you all the golf details because you probably will fall asleep listening to golf details. I think it's really interesting because it's my hobby and my addiction currently, but we got pretty far in that as well, and I was so nervous. Basically what you do is you switch off shots and you play kind of the same holes, and then you can win money at the end if you do win. And we almost got there. We were one of two groups left, and we got eliminated on that last round. But I literally had to play in front of everyone, and I was so scared. My heart was beating so fast, but I made this like super long putt. And I will say, like, there's no better feeling than making a long putt like that. And that was my birthday surprise. That was the best birthday present ever in front of everyone, especially. I was like screaming. It was so much fun. So that was my birthday. And then I had 2 other days after that. So it was kind of like a whole week devoted to golf tournament. I knew obviously this was coming up. I'd been preparing and planning for it as best as I could for a few months, but it was literally just like the best birthday ever. My mom decorated the golf cart. I got a little birthday present. And so it was so much fun. I can't even like keep saying that. We were matching outfits every single day. And afterwards we'd have like a little cocktail hour. One of the nights we had a party. And so at this party, it was high school reunion themed, which at first we were like, we don't know how to dress. It was so funny. Everyone kind of interpreted it a little bit differently. We took the interpretation of dressing as prom queens, as one would. So I wore a cute little crown, a sash. We showed up to the party. It was so much fun. And my favorite of the week, it kind of goes along with that, but my favorite of the week was a spritz. I loved a spritz this week. I had a lot of Aperol spritzes, a lot of Hugo spritzes. Hugo spritzes are delicious, and I swear that because they're not like super strong, you can have a lot of them and you don't feel gross the next day. So I honestly, though, had my game face on. I was serious. I was ready to go. I still celebrated, had fun, but we had a tournament to do. We did good. Didn't win, but it was such a fun time, and I'm really proud of myself for putting myself out there, because competition and being in a tournament is kind of scary and outside of my comfort zone. And so I'm really proud of myself for that, and it's really fun to see how this adult hobby has turned into for me. But that was pretty much my last week. It was dedicated to celebrated my birthday, golf, so I kind of took it easier on the work side of things this past week. Just took a couple days off. As an entrepreneur, it's hard to take a couple days off because you feel like you always need to be on and doing things. And of course, I was like still available to my clients. I got client check-ins done, but I definitely wanted to just like take a little bit of time to be present and to not worry about things for a second, which normalize that. It's okay to not always be go, 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 especially as someone that's type A and loves to get everything done and make sure everyone's taken care of, which everyone was still taken care of and the world does not end. There's no fitness emergencies over here. But it was such a fun birthday week. And honestly, could not even think of a low. It was so good. Honestly, I was exhausted though on Saturday. I literally took the full day to just like relax, not do anything. It felt so good. Reset yesterday, which is Sunday, and got right back onto my healthy routine. I definitely had a lot of food that I normally wouldn't have just because I didn't have a lot of control over the food. So a lot of things that were delicious, but just kind of just trying to get through the week and feel my body and make sure I was able to perform the best possible capability that I could. But yeah, a lot of spritzes and stuff thrown in there too. I'll say that as well. I'm excited to not drink for a little bit. Today, I started my kill protocol. I know I mentioned this in a couple of podcasts back, but I did another gut health retest. So I did another GI map to test for specifically H. pylori. It came back and there still was some H. pylori lingering in the system. So we are going to do another kill phase. So I started that today. I strategically placed that kill phase after this past week because I just wanted to have fun for my birthday. And honestly, my prior kill, it was not bad at all, especially the first week. You can sometimes have a slight reaction to it, maybe feeling a little bit like, I don't want to say sick because you don't feel sick necessarily, but you might feel like some flu-like symptoms. So like chills, that scenario. It depends though on how, bad and however your body responds to it, of course. So I never like to say this is going to happen, but it could happen. But I was just like, you know what? I don't even want to risk that. I want to feel good for my birthday. So I'm going to start it after. So I started that today. I started taking the supplements this morning. So I am currently 2 doses down and 4 more weeks to go. But I'm really excited to do that and to just like get to the end of this gut health journey. And I'm just praying, crossing my fingers that this does the job to kick the rest of that H. pylori out because we don't want that in there. And to be honest, if I didn't do the retest, I would have never known that I even had this in my system because my symptoms are completely gone. Like digestion is so normal, energy is great. Like even this last week when I was waking up earlier and stuff, TMI, but like I was like going to the bathroom and like normally if my body even got the slightest amount of stress, like nope, not going to the bathroom. So going to the bathroom daily, detoxing, energy levels feeling really good, overall just mood feeling so much good, feeling so much clearer, which is really fantastic. But I did the retest and it did come back with those levels a little bit higher. So long term, I just know it's best to make sure I'm kicking all of that out of my system. That way I don't need to deal with it long term and don't even need to have that like extra stress inside of my gut right now. And since I'm also working right now on repairing my hormonal health and really getting my cycle back post pill, that is also a side of the equation that I'm thinking is playing a role, is having a little bit of that stress in my gut is causing potential hormonal side effects. Because when you have stress going on in your body, the last thing your body wants to do is have a cycle or have children, right? So one thing it will do to protect itself is it will slow down some of these hormones slash just, not have a regular cycle. And of course, like stopping birth control as well is something that will also exacerbate that and cause sometimes some longer cycles. But anything I can do right now to heal my gut, to put my body in the best, least stressed out state, I am going to do. So this next 4 weeks, I'm like really focusing on health and wellness. I already have been, but doing this kill protocol, doing anti-inflammatory diet, making sure my sleep, water intake, fiber is good, eating mostly whole foods, limiting alcohol, all of that stuff. So I am happy I got that all in my system this last week and was able to just live life, because even when you're on a wellness journey, I think it's really easy to get very extreme and to be like, I need to be doing everything perfectly. And of course, like if you do everything perfectly, yes, you probably will see quick results, but you also want to like be a regular human at some points and just want to be able to enjoy your life and not worry about it a whole ton. So I think it's important to kind of go through those phases and not think about it as all or nothing. Like I still was eating anti-inflammatory and stuff, but allowing myself as well to like not track, go out to eat, do all of that. So I'm excited about though this part 2 of this kill phase to just blast it all out of there and to get it over with and to hopefully not have to do it again for a long time. But it's been really exciting as well. I mean, obviously I'm on my own gut health journey, but also being able to help clients do this too. I think I just ordered my 6th GI map for a client, which is really exciting. There's been a lot of interest in this, and I am exploring even doing maybe like one-off GI maps. So if you're someone that's listening to this and you're like, ooh, I like don't know if I want full coaching, but want maybe a GI map thrown in there, that's something I'm kind of exploring doing. Nothing like set in stone. I've done it honestly a couple times, just, podcast listeners can hear that. But I think that that's something that I want to incorporate more into my coaching just because I think it's very interesting. I really enjoy it. And I also have seen just how much it has improved my health and how eye-opening it is, honestly. Now that I've gone on the whole GI map tangent, and you all know, I love a GI map, I'm excited to get in today's episode on how macro tracking has completely changed my life and is something that I credit to completely restoring my relationship with food, my relationship with my body, and overall just transformation for myself and now hundreds of clients as well. So let's get right into it. So first, let's talk about why I started tracking my macros. So this is kind of an interesting story because when I first started tracking macros, I actually didn't like it. And I actually was eating the wrong amount of food. I was doing it wrong. And I was like, macro tracking doesn't work for me. So if you're someone sitting there right now that says, oh, macro tracking doesn't work for me, you probably want to keep listening because I thought the same thing, but I was just doing macro tracking wrong. And so when I first started macro tracking, I went on to an online calculator. It popped out some numbers. Actually, you know what I did? I went onto my Fitness Pal and it popped out some numbers. And let me tell you, my Fitness Pal wanted me to starve to death. It put me at 1,200 calories. It did this insane macro split, like completely different. I wish I could pull up the numbers as to like what I did when I first started tracking, but it was not right. Not right at all. And I did that for a while, wasn't really seeing results, was very on and off with it, which also was probably a reason I didn't see results, but I was just eating the wrong amount of food for my body. Like I am 5'9", 140 pounds. I do not need to be eating 1,200 calories. Like that is so, so, so low. And so I was kind of on and off doing it, didn't really think it worked, but I decided to take another stab at it because I saw this girl on Instagram, which is funny because I've seen some other girls on TikTok actually like making videos about how this girl also did them dirty. But I saw this girl on Instagram and she did a like 4-week cut plan or something like that. I can't exactly remember what the details were, but it was some sort of like fat loss plan for macros. She gave them to me. Girl, these were the lowest macros ever. But you know what? I love a plan. I love to follow a plan. So I started doing this. Literally within like a few weeks, I felt like crap, no energy, and also not losing weight. Felt like just terrible, flamed. I had to take like 3 naps a day. This was awful. This girl also is still around, by the way, and she still does this and scams people on the macro tracking, which is like a whole nother story. But it was literally terrible. So I really thought that tracking macros like didn't work for me because of all those reasons. Is because I'd been burned a couple of times and I was like, okay, this doesn't work for me. So I kept tracking because I was nervous, like, well, what if I stop tracking and I just completely like, gain a ton of weight or whatever. And so I kept tracking, but really was not seeing any progress. And so what I did is I found a coach that was doing this thing called reverse dieting. And I remember feeling very compelled to reach out to this coach because she was talking about how she was helping her clients eat more food and like reset their metabolism and stuff. And I just remember her speaking to me. I'm honestly not sure if she still is even coaching at the moment, but she really changed my life. Shout out to you, Jess. But I decided to reach out to her and immediately she was like, girl, we need to do a reverse diet because I had been eating like that 1,300, 1,400 calories for so long that my metabolism was shot. It was not happy and I was not seeing results from this. It had probably downregulated my hormones, my metabolism, for sure downregulated my metabolism, but my hormones were just all out of whack as well because of under eating for a long time. And that's what happens when you under eat for a long time, is that your body does not thrive. It does not like it, and it's not going to be primed to lose body fat. And so we had to do a full reverse diet. And through this reverse diet, where we also utilize macro tracking, it completely reversed and restored my relationship with food. I no longer was thinking about food 24/7. I was eating 2,000 plus calories. The highest amount I ever got to was 2,600 calories, like literally insane. I don't eat that much right now, but I got up to that point through the reverse diet. And it was just so transformative to finally feel what it felt like to not constantly be in this cycle of binging, restricting, low calorie counting. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, wow, I can eat whatever I want, stress free, guilt free. I literally remember the first like few times I went out to dinner with tracking macros the right way with the actual right numbers and being like, I can fit in a burger. I can fit in a glass of wine. I can fit in these things and not feel any guilt. And I'm still seeing results. I'm still losing body fat. I'm still building lean muscle tone. This is freaking amazing. And that's what led me honestly to coaching because it changed my life completely. And I just wanted as many women as possible to know how to do this and to know that food doesn't have to be scary. And so that's a little bit about my story with macro tracking. And one lesson that I learned through this and through also just helping women now, 400 plus women track their macros, or some people don't track their macros, but most people do in my program. One thing I have learned is that you have no idea what you are eating without tracking. A lot of women, they come to me and they're like, well, I'm not eating a lot, but I'm still gaining weight or I can't lose weight. And we have them start tracking macros, and immediately they come back to me on their first check-in and they're like, Abby, I did not realize that I was dramatically overeating, because healthy food or foods that you think might be healthy 100% can add up in a very, very quick way. And it's not to say that these foods aren't bad for you. It's just knowing portion sizes. And so that's one thing that macro tracking really helped me out with, is understanding portion sizes. Because before tracking macros, I remember having like a ton of avocados and putting avocado oil on my avocado toast and putting all the stuff on my foods that I didn't realize was really racking up the calories. And I'm not saying this from a space of like you need to eat low calorie, but you just have to be smart about the calories that you are putting in your body if you want to look a certain way, feel a certain way, and especially if you have fat loss goals, like you have to be in a calorie deficit. And so a lot of women, they think that they are having the lower calorie option or they're having a portion controlled option, when in reality, it's like maybe 500, 1,000 calories more than they thought it was. Especially when I have my clients do their first week of test tracking, is what I do, is they will just track everything that they're eating normally. And I can't even tell you how many times they've come back to me after that test tracking week, and it's been dramatically over what their maintenance calorie should be, because they just don't have a real clear idea of what portion sizes look like or what is even in foods. And so that is really what macro tracking taught me a ton, is what is in foods. Like going out to eat doesn't have to be scary if you understand what a portion size looks like when you're going out to eat. But yeah, eating out is scary when you are not aware of your food at all and you don't know what's going on. Like, yes, that makes it scary. And I remember in my journey, I used to be so scared to go out to eat because I didn't have the control over it, or I just immediately demonized food that was not made by me. Like I would just think, well, it's not made by me, it must be bad. And that really doesn't have to be the case. Like if you have the knowledge of tracking macros and you go out to eat, like you are going to feel so freaking free. I remember going out to eat, like when I first started tracking macros and realizing, wow, like this doesn't have to be something that I'm chained to. It's something that is actually really freeing, and I still can go out to eat and enjoy these meals with my family and this yummy, delicious food and not feel so burdened by my goals. And a lot of people view macro tracking as like, well, this is so restrictive, but it's not restrictive if you look at it in a way of, this is educating me on portion sizes. This is educating me on how to choose the best options when I am going out to eat. I don't need to choose the lowest calorie option. I don't need to do these things. I can choose things based on what sounds good in satiety. And that is something that was really, really freeing for me and really freeing for a lot of my clients as well. And I mean, even just the concept of like hidden calories when you go out to eat, like for instance, one thing is oil. Like they throw a bunch of oil in their food. The person in the back, they only care how good it tastes. I don't blame them. They want people to come back to their restaurants, but they don't care about your fitness goals. And so you just have to allocate maybe for extra oils or whatever. I remember being so humbled, realizing how much fats were in food when you go out to eat. And again, this is not to scare you. This is just something that if you are aware and you know how that plays a role into your macros for the day, it doesn't need to be scary. And so that was something that for sure completely revolutionized my way of macro tracking. And I think the other just concept with that is just the healthy foods still having calories. Like just because something is healthy doesn't mean that you can have endless amounts of it. Like you still have to have portion sizes. And so I think a good way if you don't want to track macros, or if you do want to track macros, is to just have one serving of a protein, one serving of a carb, one serving of a fat at each meal, and you should be good to go. But it's really easy to underestimate. And so that's why I think it's really eye-opening. Even if you are someone that's like, well, I don't want to track my food, you don't have to track for the rest of your life just because you download MyFitnessPal. Like you can start tracking right now and just track a couple of meals and just get a baseline for where you're eating and gain that awareness. It's really nice sometimes to know, like, well, I did not realize I was having 300 calories worth of olive oil in this meal. A lot of people have no idea they're consuming that, and it will cause you to not see results. And so things like that is really eye-opening. And I really, really encourage you, if you've never done this, just have a few days where you're not trying to track and hit anything. Like you're just trying to track what you're currently eating and just get a little bit of an idea of what you're eating. The next thing I really have learned is that your macros really matter, yes, but what you're hitting with those macros matters more. And so when I first started tracking my macros, I definitely went a little bit on the side of, if it fits in your macros, fitting in a lot of protein powders and a lot of processed stuff and a lot of sugar-free stuff and a lot of things that were also like demonized to me for so long. I all of a sudden could have Oreos guilt-free. I could have cereal guilt-free and alcohol guilt-free. And so what I found myself doing is really putting a lot of these calories into my macros. Yes, I was still like hitting targets and hitting my macros, but long term, like now looking back, what I realize is that you can't really get around not having whole foods. Like whole foods are going to be so good for your energy and your digestion and your hormonal health and your overall physical health. I could guarantee, like, if you hit your macros by eating all Oreos, first of all, you'll feel like crap. But second of all, the person that hits their macros by eating all whole foods versus hitting their macros by eating Oreos, you're going to feel a lot better and you're probably going to look a lot better too. And so what you put into those macros, yes, there is that concept of flexible dieting and you can eat whatever you want, which is amazing. But I find that a lot of people, when they first start tracking macros, they go a little too seriously in the if it fits your macros, and they start fitting in things that they maybe haven't had before, and they start maybe not feeling super great, or they try to just hack it too much. Like fit in your macros, mostly whole foods. I'm talking like 80 to 90%. You will feel so good, but allow yourself that 20% to go out to eat. Allow yourself that 20% to fit in a cookie or whatever you want to have. I think that's important too. But one thing I definitely went off the rails with, because I mean, I didn't really get a lot of coaching around this, honestly, when I first started, either with my first coach, but she really helped me out with tracking macros and making sure I knew how to actually at least hit those numbers. But what you hit those numbers with also really matters. Protein really matters. Carbs really matter. Fats really matter. It's really important to have the right macro split. A lot of people are coming to me with macro splits that are so freaking crazy. I'm like, what? Who gave you this? What is this? And I think in the day and age of chat GPT and stuff, yes, this is great, but it's also not taking into account like where your start point is, where your metabolism is, where your hormones are. And so that's something that I really pride myself on, and pride myself on making sure that macros are something that are so customized to the individual and customized to a weekly basis. Like not all my clients track macros every single day. Not all of my clients track macros every single week. Like there's definitely ebbs and flows on being able to have that flexibility in there as well. And they literally are so personalized. I don't even think any of my two clients have the same macros. And if they did, it'd be a crazy, crazy coincidence. And so the next thing that I really learned is that weekends can really erase progress. And when it comes to being in a calorie deficit, it really is a numbers game. And so I know I gave that comparison with the Oreos versus the Whole Foods just a second ago, but you can lose weight eating all Oreos. You can lose weight eating all chicken. It is, at the end of the day, a deficit equation, and it's a calories in, calories out equation. No matter where your hormones are, no matter where your metabolism is, it is calories in, calories out. Yes, you might have to get more aggressive if your hormones are messed up, if your gut's messed up, and yes, you might actually need to be doing some work instead of going into a super low calorie deficit. I'm not going to do that for clients if they come to me and their guts or hormones are messed up. Like, let's do the internal work before we try to go to 700 calories to lose weight. Like, no one wants to eat 700 calories and lose weight. That's in a roundabout way for me to say that the weekends are something that you cannot outrun, you cannot outwork. You have to be consistent on the weekends. You can't be in a calorie deficit for the week and then on the weekends you are going 1,000 calories over. Like, that will erase your deficit, because at the end of the day, a deficit is a numbers game. And so that's something that was definitely, I would say, hard, yes, but also very freeing in the sense that I could still have all my favorite foods on the weekends. So, for instance, when I am tracking macros on the weekends, like, I'm tracking in a glass of champagne, I'm tracking in a little bit of a dessert. I'm giving myself a little bit more flexibility with what those macros are comprised of, but I'm still hitting my targets for the weekend. And you will learn really, really quick if you do any sort of calorie tracking or macro tracking. If you aren't tracking the weekends and you are going off the rails and eating like an a-hole, you're not going to see the progress that you want to see. And it's humbling. I know it's humbling to go into Your My Fitness Pal and to track 6 vodka sodas or 6 espresso martinis. I would not feel good if I had just 6 espresso martinis, but you get a real good feel on that. Makes sense why I'm not seeing progress. Like, I am blowing it on the weekends. I got a reel in the weekends. And so it's really nice for a lot of my clients to at least kind of look themselves in the eyes with the habits that they have maybe formed on the weekends, or maybe they have been really restrictive with their macros during the week, and maybe your macros are way too low during the week. And so when you get to the weekend, you're like, I am starving. Let's freaking go. You don't want to get to the point where you want to just completely throw everything out the window. Like, we should be able to have a healthy, balanced lifestyle during the week and on the weekends. But that is something that a lot of people neglect, is that they think like, okay, well, if I track during the week, I don't have to track during the weekends. And like, that's not the case. Yes, clients that have worked with me for years and years and years, or maybe like a year, I do give them a pass to not track on the weekend sometimes, because it is important, I think, to not feel like you need to track for the rest of your life and to be able to implement some of these untracked weekends and untracked days. But if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of self-control, or you don't have a lot of knowledge around nutrition, I really highly suggest tracking on the weekends, holding yourself accountable, because a lot of times people don't even know how much the weekends are destroying their progress. And that's where a lot of people lose progress. Monday through Thursday, they're super consistent. They're working really hard. I talked about that in my previous podcast episode as well, of like the weekender mentality. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday comes and they completely blow it. Like, that's 3 days out of 7 days. That's almost half of your week that you're blowing it. And if you're blowing it, it's going to feel like you're working really hard and not seeing results, but it's because you're blowing it on the weekends. Another thing that I really learned is that it's consistency over perfection. I am not someone that's ever going to knock a client for not being perfect with their macros or perfectly zeroing them out every single day. I think you need time off of tracking. I think that you need more of your time on tracking, though, if you want to lose body fat or you have strict goals. But I think it's really important to not get hung up on the days that you're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I want to give a little bit of a story about myself when I first started tracking macros. And this is just like my personality type at this point. But I was actually crazy with hitting my numbers and zeroing them out. And I did that for years. And I mean, you know what? I'm type A. I love it. I love tracking macros. This is my job. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't love it. However, I think I placed a little bit too much extreme emphasis on being perfect with my numbers and not realizing how much resiliency my body had to be able to maintain and to still be able to lose body fat and not be like completely perfect. Consistency is better than perfection. I would way rather have a client be like 90% on macros for multiple weeks than 100% perfect for 2 weeks and then quit for 3 weeks. Like, that's way better to just be in the B plus range with your progress. That's totally fine. And that's something I wish I would have practiced more in my journey when I was first starting was I don't need to be perfect. And I wish I had a coach like me to tell myself, like, you don't need to be perfect. And it can seem like you do need to be perfect, but I promise you, if you're 80 to 90% consistent and you're tracking 6 out of 7 days, or you're tracking every single day for a month and maybe you have a weekend off, like that is okay. And that's not something to beat yourself up over. And so that's something I definitely learned throughout this journey is that you don't need to be perfect, but you do need to be consistent. And I'd be lying to you if I said that I, eat perfect 100% of the time. Like I don't. I mean, you listen to the beginning of this podcast episode, I don't, but it's really humbling to know that you don't need to be 100% perfect all the time. And one thing I do with clients, and this is kind of a good test as well, is if a client comes to me and they're like, Abby, I am not seeing progress, want to quit or whatever they say to me. First thing I'll do is look at the data. Data does not lie. And when you're looking at data, especially when it comes to macro tracking or calorie counting, and you're looking at the data and you're like, well, you've gone over on your calories 10 out of the 14 days of the last 2 weeks. Like, of course, you're not seeing progress. I think data is key, and people that are data driven in their fat loss journey truly are winners because oh my gosh, my dog is like attacking me right now. Because when we aren't looking at the data, it can be really easy to get emotional. Like, well, I feel like I'm trying so hard. I feel like I'm doing these things. Well, does the data show that? And it's really insightful to look at the data and to know like, okay, I've been on track maybe 4 out of the 7 days other than Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, that's the reason why you're not seeing progress because that's way less than 80%. Like you're looking at 60 or something percent. So it's really important to look at that. It's really important to make sure that you are being real with yourself. And yes, like you don't need to be stressed about being perfect, but you do need to be consistent in order to see the results that you want to see. And there's nothing worse than putting in all this work and not seeing the results that you want. So I really highly suggest taking that data-driven approach, making sure that you are hitting your numbers, working with someone to hold you accountable if you can't hold yourself accountable. Hey, I have hired so many coaches in my past. I've had 3, 4 coaches, and it's been tremendously helpful. And I do this for a living. Accountability, nothing can replace it. And at the end of the day, tracking is not something that you should feel like you need to do forever. I, on every single consult call I have with the client, tell them, my goal for you is to track for a season of your life so you understand nutrition, you can maintain this progress forever, and really understand what you are putting in your body and be able to delete MyFitnessPal. Like, we don't want to be the grandma in MyFitnessPal tracking their food. You want to be able to learn the skill and be able to apply that skill long term without putting everything into an app. And if you treat it like that, as like a tool to put in your tool belt and you're actively tracking, meaning when you're going to MyFitnessPal, you're not just like throwing in lasagna. Like, let's actually figure out like what's in these foods. Like, let's deconstruct the item. Let's track the pasta. Let's track the sauce. Let's track the things. Not from the perspective of like, I gotta be 100% or I need to be perfect or restrictive, but because you want to learn what's in these foods. So that way, long term, like you can go to a restaurant and be like, yeah, girl, the lasagna, I know what kind of the macros would look like for that, even just like eyeballing it or in your head being able to gauge those portion sizes. And so it's really cool to be able to eyeball those portions, and by actively tracking of like, okay, I'm tracking the 4 ounces of chicken. That's what that looks like on my plate. That's what it looks like on MyFitnessPal. That's what the calories look like, the macros look like. Where I find people go wrong with learning this tool is that they just aren't focusing, or they're not really taking into account like learning what are in these foods. So when they go to a restaurant, they're like, I have no idea what a portion size looks like, or I have no idea how many calories are in an egg. Like, I know in an egg 70 calories. And again, I'm not looking at food as a number. Like, I'm looking at food overall as, am I getting a protein? Am I getting a balanced carb? Am I getting a fat source for my exact body? And once you do that, it makes it so easy because I can now go on trips. I can go have a weekend off, and I'm still able to really portion size correctly for my body because I have tracked for so long, and I know how to track, and I know how to also not track. And I've gone through many seasons of not tracking my food. I had just been in a season of like 4 or 5 months of not tracking my food, and nothing happened. Being able to maintain because I learned all of these things and being able to really use it as a tool. It's not a diet, it's not something that you need to do forever. But if you learn about portion sizes and stuff, it will really unlock and free you up forever, especially when it comes to being able to maintain your progress, maintain your weight. It is really, truly magical and something that really should be taken into account more often. And so, just some like final takeaways here. Tracking isn't this like magic diet, magic thing. It is a tool for you to learn, and it's something that has completely changed my outlook and my thoughts around food and fuel and exercise and being able to have foods that are yummy and processed and whatever, but also knowing how food is healing, and food is something that can really have a lot of power in a lot of people's lives, but it doesn't have to in a negative capacity. It can have a positive impact. And I think that that's the main thing that macro tracking has really brought into my life, is being able to look at food as something that is fueling my body, but it's also something to enjoy. It's something to not fear. It's something to be really proud of, being able to break these curses around food, and something that, a lot of people struggle with for so long. And now to be able to look at it and be like, okay, it's whatever. Like, I think that that is so powerful and something that macro tracking for sure helped me to do. So I hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you're someone though that's listening to this and you're like, I want a little bit more info, or I want some help around macro tracking, I am your girl. I'll put my application link in the description of this podcast, but make sure to subscribe, like this podcast, rate and review. That really helps me out. And I will see you all next week. Bye.